everybody, welcome. I'm Daniel G. Garza, and this is another episode of Put It Together. Welcome to the show. It's Saturday, December 16, 2023. We're getting close, folks. Christmas is here, New Year's is here, but more importantly, the day that really matters in the season, and I'll fight anybody who disagrees. My birthday is coming up. December 26th is my birthday. So make sure you stay tuned because we're going to have a special birthday edition of Put It Together where I get to talk about me the whole hour. Like I don't do it every day. But stay tuned for December 26th. I'll be having my Christmas special, which will be on here where we get to talk about things that happen throughout the year, share some cool stuff with you about next year, and share experiences. So come on, join us that day for some chit chat and cake. That's the day I my cake. It's all about me. So let's be sure whoever joins the show, you know it's going to be all about me. So just so that you're warned about that disclaimer. We want to welcome everybody who's watching us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and X. If you do us a favor and share this on your page so that other folks can watch along with you. If you're watching us on YouTube, scroll down, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. It'll let you know every time there's a new show or a new post on our YouTube page. Remember, we got horoscopes on Mondays, Christian and Daniel on Wednesdays. Put It Together is back on Saturdays. I'm so excited because we already have guests lined up for the new year, and it's just always cool. I think I'll check my calendar in a minute. I think this is the last show of the year, and I'm so happy for and excited for the guests that I have today. I'll tell you about them in just a minute. But the new series that has been doing quite well, and we're going to push it for next year, is Daniel's Days. And I really have to give credit to the folks at National Today. If you're not following nationaltoday.com, go check them out. That's where I really get all of the information from. And then I just generate my own little spiel. But these are less than a minute long. National Today, what's being celebrated on the day, and I'm posting one every day. It's quite a challenge, but it's been so much fun, particularly for those of you that know that I have a huge collection of t-shirts. I think I have a t-shirt for almost every day of the year, and it's been really fun to match up the National Today day with the t-shirt. Not only I'm going to give you a little behind the, not only is it like really cool for me creatively and as an entertainer and as a social media content creator, but it's also helped a lot with my anxiety because it gives me something to focus every day. So I'm just going to throw that out there for anybody. It's like having this one little thing every day that I have to focus on, that I need to like come back to, has really helped with my anxiety, particularly during the holidays, end of the year. For those of you that have your own business, you know how some of those things can, like, you're not sure what next year is going to bring. So being those, I hope you watch them. They're all over the social media now. I have them on my pages. But go follow them, like them. Today, I'll be showing you the one for today during the show. But let me go ahead and start talking about our guest today. My guest today is Jim Swan. With over 20 years as a small business owner, entrepreneur, award-winning author, and consultant, Jim brings his experience as a survivor of success and failure to the world of business strategy and consulting. He's turned years of business experiences, personal values, and a belief in the power of transformative energy into a laser-focused professional objective to support small and medium-sized business owners as they expand into their highest and best selves. With a Bachelor of Arts degree in theology and music from Southwestern University and studies in Arizona State University, architecture and design master's degree program, he now includes certified coach in his educational accomplishments. He is a past member of the Gay and Lesbian Victory Fund, serving on its executive board of directors. Other commitments include PAWS LA, which assists with the care of LA pets. With the care of pets for people living with disabilities, and KidSmarts, an art education foundation for inner city youth. He recently joined the executive board of directors for the Knox Museum, Thomaston, Maine. Currently, he lives and works in the Mist Coast in Maine, and I envy his lobster probably eating habits. But I'm going to bring Jim on too. Hi, Jim.
Hey, Daniel. Good to be here. Thanks for the invite.
How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, it's always lobster time in Maine, that's for sure. So
I having been working a lot in the northern East Coast lately last year. I can appreciate a good lobster now. So
yeah, the lobster roll, it's the meal of summer. So and if you know where to go, you can have it year round. So yeah,
yeah,
there's that.
I'm already booking my room at the Swan Inn to make
Well,
sure that.
just so you know, you go across the street and down about three-quarters of a mile, and there's a lobster co-op there, which local lobster fishermen dock their boats and empty their catches every afternoon, and you can buy it
Oh,
fresh off the docks. So
that that has to be really cool. Okay, before it's early here, it's 10 o'clock, and I guess it's lobster time anywhere, right? So
always lobster time. Yeah.
for those of you that are always curious about where I know my guests from, I was trying to put it together. Did we meet on LinkedIn first, or did we meet on Alignable?
I think we met on LinkedIn first.
Right?
Yeah, either that or maybe a networking group. You do JV directory, right?
I can't
Maybe not.
remember. I feel like I heard you speak, or I saw you somewhere, and then I was like, "Huh, who is this person?" And I looked you up, and
Maybe.
I think I checked you out on. Okay, it's no secret to any of you out there. It's no secret. I stalk some of my guests. If they're not already friends of mine, and I see them speaking somewhere, or they make a comment, and I'm like, "Ooh, that's an." And I do a lot of webinars and a lot of or his mastermind groups and stuff. But yes, I believe I heard you speak somewhere or comment about something, and I was like, "Wow, he's like he knows what he's talking about." And then I went into LinkedIn, and I was like, "Ooh!" And I think I sent you a message like, "Hey," or connect,
That's resonating. Yeah,
right?
that sounds
And then
about
we
right.
connected, and then
And now you can't get rid of me.
now, yes. I'm very fortunate, and knock on wood, I'm very fortunate that a lot of professional friends and I guess social media friends have become personal friends that where we catch up with each other on a regular. And now you're part of the group on Alignable too.
Yeah.
So which those are interesting. You guys have heard me talk about those the Alignable groups. I'm just going to give you the alignable.com. The best way to describe Alignable is it's where LinkedIn people go to party. This is where we go hang out and have a conversations, and
Yeah.
you do a lot of business on LinkedIn, and then you come to Alignable and you chit chat. And if you're interested, go back to Alignable, check it out, find him. I am the co-admin of two groups, the LGBTQIS2S group and the Latinx groups. They're both for business people. So if you belong to either one of those groups or I are an ally of either one of those groups, come join us and you can find Jim there. I also want to invite everybody who's watching, please, if you have any questions, comments, or just want to be part of the conversation, feel free to chat in whatever page you're watching us, and we'll make sure we post it on here. But enough of me. Jim Swan, tell us how you put it together.
Oh wow, it's such a lifelong process. Whether it's getting my stuff together every day or bigger picture, you read the line, and I wrote it many years ago in reflecting on, I guess, really just the latest chapter in my life, and that is that I'm a survivor of success and failure. I've had some really amazing, successful moments in my career, really mountaintop high kind of things. Um, and I've survived those because, as it turns out, success is challenging to survive. It's challenging to navigate. But then I've also, and maybe more publicly, and certainly more in the moment, devastatingly, I've had those fall flat on your face in public, failure moments too. And I've been able to put it together and just keep the train moving. Not always sure how or why, or how I've done that. The why I know. The why is, at this point in my life and career, I I want to be able to be the person that I was looking for in those moments when I was when life was at the darkest. I wish, in fact, I found at one point in one of my journals, I just wish I could find somebody I could talk to about this that would really understand, what the darkness looks like and what it feels like. I wasn't looking for anybody to solve the problem, wave a magic wand, anything like that. It was just I just love to talk to somebody who understands. And so I'm fortunate at this moment in my life to be in a place where I get to work with business owners, some of them who are really struggling, some of them who are on their way up and really growing in an exciting way. And I get to be that person for them. And nothing feels better. Nothing feels better than that.
Well, I can definitely vouch for that. You're one of the people whenever something professionally is happening, and I'm like, I need to talk to Jim. Like I need to message Jim. Like so, um, I wrote that down. Be who you wanted. Um,
Mm.
can I ask you when you were young? Like, can you be more specific? Like, what kind of mentors, what kind of people were you looking for in your life? Does that make sense?
Mm. Oh yeah, yeah. No, it makes sense. I mean, I think I have clarity. The closer I get, so if I look back, Daniel, on the timeline of my life, the closer I get to where I am today, the clearer I am about that person that I was looking for, the mentor, the guide, the, the person to look up to. When I was young, there were many years where I spent feeling very confused. I grew up in a very fundamentally religious environment, and while the foundational principles of ethics and this is right, this is wrong were baked into me, and I'm deeply grateful for that. There was a lot of mixed messages going around, and that I lived with day after day, week after week, up until I was, well, honestly, my late 20s. It permeated my life, and it wasn't until I left that religious organization, went back to school to study architecture, and pursued a completely different career, that I started having the space to reassess what it was I was looking for and who I could trust to look to for an example and for the kind of role model that would be meaningful for me. And I think I'm getting better at that. Who I choose to align myself with at this point in my life, many years after that period of my life. Um, when I was young, I think I was looking for someone to rescue me.
Mm.
And today I don't want to rescue anyone because I can't. I don't have the capacity. I don't have I'm not superhuman. But what I can offer is experience, and I can offer an arm to support and a shoulder to cry on, and I can offer consistency, because I may not have the answer for you. I may not be able to wave a magic wand and solve the problem that you're facing. But if all I can do is show up every day and just stand in the same room as you are and just be a presence, I can do that, and I'm happy to do that.
That
So
that was a very I just so you know, like I wrote right here, like rescue me and like because poof, like I can so relate to that. No, people, I'm not gonna cry and break down, and this is not a therapy session for Daniel, but I can definitely connect with the rescue me part.
yeah.
Um, there are so many as we're speaking, as you're speaking, I'm like, oh, religious, yes, like conservative family, yes, like deep rooted ideas and traditions, check check, and not realizing that I was looking for somebody to rescue me as a young person
Yeah.
because I knew there was something else out there, and
Yeah.
my family was not able. And I have to. I don't know if this makes sense to you. I can look back now and realize that my parents were not able to offer me something that they didn't know existed for
Yeah.
me. Does that make sense?
Oh, completely makes sense. I mean, my sisters and I talk. I have two sisters. One who doesn't quite get this conversation. The other one, we have this conversation every time we speak. We're both perfectly. It's crystal clear to us both that our parents did the very best that they were able to do given what they knew to be true in this world. But their world view, despite having traveled the world, their world view was so restrictive because of the religious environment that they had made deep commitments to, and were utterly faithful to those commitments. There's lessons to be learned, very positive lessons to be learned in that. But what it did is it provided a very restrictive vocabulary around interacting with the world, about building career, building friendships outside of those walls of a religious environment. In fact, if it was outside the religious environment, it didn't exist. I mean, that was the degree to which it was taken for me. Until I got in my junior year of high school, I did not have a single person that I could literally call and attribute as a friend that didn't attend my church. We were at the church easily 5 nights a week, whether it was youth group or Wednesday night service or choir practice or youth choir practice or Sunday evening service. It was our entire life. It was our entire existence. And I remember that I don't know that I could find him today, but up to about the time that I turned 35, we still occasionally would connect. Billy Weir was the friend that I made my junior year of high school. He was the first person that I had in my life that didn't attend my church. And it was life-changing because I hadn't had that experience up to that point.
Wow.
So my parents, they did the best that they could, and I'm appreciative of that. I don't always agree with certain things, but I'm a big boy now. I can make decisions on my own. Still influenced by all of that, because I don't know about you, but I can't get rid of all those tapes. they play in my head pretty regularly. So,
I feel like it's like duct tape. You can pull it off, but there's always a little bit of residue. There's
Yeah.
always a little bit that lingers, and but it's interesting. Yeah, it wasn't until I was 20 years old and I had my first boyfriend that I went to go spend Thanksgiving with him that I realized that what we saw on television was real, that people actually sat around and had turkey and side dishes and football, because we always went to Mexico for Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah.
In Mexico, we don't celebrate Thanksgiving.
Sure.
And we made turkey tamales. This is
Right.
we always made turkey tamales because my parents got a turkey from their work,
Right.
and then we took it to Mexico, and on the way it thawed, and then they would make tamales. So I always thought everybody must make something with their turkey. You don't just eat a turkey.
Right.
It was so beyond my and people were like, "But you were educated." I'm like, that had nothing to do.
No.
Nothing to my culture and my education were like those two magnets that can't quite connect, but they belong together somehow.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. Yeah. And when you can carry that knowledge, that understanding that your experience in growing up was so distinctively different from the person sitting next to you in U.S. history class, and realize that today in our lives, that every person that we interact with carries a different set of experiences and a different perspective on the world. It's utterly fascinating, the things that you can learn if you're willing to just sit and have a conversation with someone. It makes for some remarkable moments in this world.
And then there was something else you brought up, because you said you changed your studies, right? Is that
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because I was trying to think, like, how interesting, how our people don't realize this, that culture, religion, and social norms will define your first career choice. And I want to underline that, your first career choice, because for a lot of us, you're like, okay, I'm on this path because this is what I've been taught to do, or I'm supposed to do. But then all of a sudden you're like, no, because I started off in business. I got a business degree, and then through a series of other things, I was like, I think I'm more creative
Yeah.
than adding numbers together. Does that make sense?
Oh, it totally makes sense. I can take you back. I could probably sketch the room that it was my senior year of high school. I was in my room, sitting at my desk, and unbeknownst to my parents, through a class that I had taken, my first photography class was my sophomore year, and I had gotten to know my junior year my photography teacher, and then I came back for my senior year, and he had accepted a job at a photography university, a photography school in Santa Barbara, California, um, and was no longer there. But he reached out in the middle of my senior year, and he said, you had really distinguished yourself in the photography department. I remember you, and I would like to put you up for a scholarship, full scholarship, at this very prestigious school of photography in Santa Barbara, California. And I sat at my desk, and I had all I had to do was fill out the application, send it in. But then I also had the small Bible college in Texas that my parents wanted me to go to and kind of expected me to go to. And I sat there for the longest time that night trying to decide what I was going to do. And I finally put the photography scholarship application away, and I filled out the Bible school, the religious school application, and sent it in. So then, fast forward after graduating and getting married, and then going through the trauma of having a really horrific boss in one of the churches that I worked in, because I went right into church work because that's what my parents wanted me to do. My then wife and we decided we were done. We were done with working in the church. We were pretty much done with church in general, and we were out of there. And we were living in Phoenix, Arizona at the time. And it was like, okay, well, what on earth am I going to do with the rest of my life? And I took some time, and I went back and I went through my journals. Don't let anybody tell you that journaling isn't important. And it just brought back memories of when we traveled as children, because we got to live overseas in the Far East for a period of time. But I was always fascinated by the buildings that we were in. I would sketch or make notes, and it got me thinking about architecture. And long story, much, much shorter, I applied and finally got into the Masters of Architecture program at Arizona State and headed in a new direction. And for the next 20 plus years, I did architecture and design, or primarily design. I never got my stamp as an architect. I worked for a couple of architects, and honestly, if I had to do any more tilt-up strip centers, I was gonna shoot myself or shoot somebody. I didn't know which. The world of design opened up for me, and I built a career and a business in that. And for the period of time that I did it, very rewarding, lots of positive moments, and yet that has nothing to do with what I'm doing today. So go figure.
I want to bring up a couple of comments that have been popping up on the board. Chanel, hi Chanel, it's good to see you virtually. You can only give so much until your sanity becomes overwhelming. Ain't that the truth, sister? Any
Very
comment
true.
on that? And then Michael says, there were times I felt in my culture had barriers and comfort zones that limited me to look out for other opportunities. That's pretty much what we're talking about. Any comments on any of those two, Jim?
Oh, I would just agree with both of them. There's truth in both of those statements, but they also don't have to define us. And I think that's one of the great takeaways that I carry with me today. I've had a lot of experiences, good and bad, in my life, but I choose to not let any of them define who I am. Who I am today is a constantly evolving creature. I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm changing. The person that I am today, I won't be next year at this time, because I make a commitment, a conscious commitment to continue to grow and develop. And I think that's one of the anecdotes for those cultural barriers or those cultural frameworks that would try to limit us, is to just constantly be a student of growth and change and development. I don't know what's your experience, Daniel.
Yeah, well, when Michael talking about the culture barriers, I remember very clearly having the conversation with my dad when those of you that know the story, I went to high school in Mexico. We were living in Texas. But when I came back from high school, my dad was like, we talked to the manager at the company. They were working in the factory. We have a job for you. I think I've shared this story with you.
Yeah.
Um, we have a job for you. You're bilingual. You're pretty smart. I'd already taken some computer classes in high school. They're like, you can be supervisor soon, and then they can make you manager. Where's that? Let's go. And I was like, when did I agree to this? But that was the comfort zone that my parents lived in, and they wanted me to be comfortable in their space, and I wasn't. And as you're talking about like choices, um, few people know this, but I wanted to go into the army. I behind my parents, but parents said no. I had gone in, I went to a recruiter, I went to the office, filled out the paperwork, did the test, got a very good score on my test. I was pretty smart at one point, and uh, passed the physical. The only thing left was to sign the paperwork. But this was 1989, 88, right before Desert
Mhm.
Storm.
Oh
And
yeah.
I was 6 months before Desert Storm. I was about to sign on. And the only reason I didn't was because I knew I was gay and I heard some horror stories.
Yeah.
And that put panic in that was a bigger fear. That was a bigger fear than going off to war.
Going to war. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, they were like, the potential. I was like, that's cool. But then when they were talking about don't ask, don't tell, I was like, oh, like, okay, I don't know about that. And the recruiter went to my house. He was like, "Would you sign on? Like, we have a place for you." And I was like, and then I was like, "Well, let me ask you a question." And he was very honest with me. He's like, "Look, here's the way things are," and that's the reason I didn't go. And 6 months later, Desert Storm, and I remember crying in front of the television, mad at myself because like you potentially could have been there, and I wanted to be there. I wanted so bad to be there. But anyway,
Yeah.
one of those turns in life that didn't quite happen. So I totally understand. Like,
Yeah.
and I think I don't know if I've talked to you about this. This falls to me now that I'm older, and now that I do the work that I do, it falls into that manifestation place that
Hmm.
I talk to my clients about. Imagine what you want, make it a dream, manifest it, write it down, do whatever you need to do. What's your strategy to get there?
Right.
And I already completed all the steps, but then step number 5 is see it through.
Hmm.
And like you said, I had these two choices. The
Yeah.
universe, God, whomever had given you this, like here's the application, dude. Just sign it, and we're off. And then
Yeah.
at that moment, we're like, what do I do? I mean, not that I regret where my life is today, obviously, for all the out there, but it could have been a whole different life for me. And I do
Mhm.
sometimes, in the humanity of my brain, I wonder what would have happened had I joined the army.
Yeah. No, I've had those thoughts. What would have happened if I'd have signed the other application? What would it look like? It's those. I think I don't know if you ever saw the movie. I think it was called Sliding Doors. Gwyneth Paltrow was in it, but it was this idea that all that separates us from an alternate future is a split-second decision, and
Right.
everything could change. Um, I a friend of mine who I interact with fairly regularly. He's a bit of a mentor and a coach. There's that great scene. I love movie references. I think you know this about me, but in the X-Men, the Cerebro, when they're in that big dome and they're looking at all of those, the lives around the world. But what I think is so fascinating about that graphic of Cerebro are just the little tiny pixels, these millions of pixels. And that's the mental image that I carry with me about all the choices that we have in life. Every choice we make tips the direction that our life goes just in the slightest, just 1 degree. And both of those destinations are could be just as real as any of the others. And they're just all of these little pixels, but we only get to live in one at a time. And so the moment I have right now is the only moment that is real to me. So I have to make the most of it. But all of those other things, they sort of hover out there in the universe, I think, somewhere. I don't know if we'll ever access them, but I get kind of intrigued by just the thought that they're there.
But isn't it fascinating? I mean, I'm reflecting now more because I'll be 53 in 10 days, and I think as I'm counting down for the next birthday, it for me it's not a huge birthday because I already turned 50, so I'm like 55 is the next one, and
Right.
um,
Hmm.
but still, I as I'm getting closer to the birthday, and I'm like, wow, like these little red pill, blue pill moments.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like the first time that I did drugs in the backseat of my car. I was like,
Hmm.
do it or don't do it. Having chosen rehab over going to jail was a big
Hmm.
moment. Staying
Sure.
in Texas, coming to California, like those little, like you're like, okay, let's do it, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and then it marks
Hmm.
this new path, and then it's like if you've ever seen a tree trunk, it's all those little ripples, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
this is where the tree grew. This is
Yeah.
where I grew, and those are so fascinating to talk about. For everybody watching, we are halfway through the show. Please comment, ask questions, join the conversation. I'm going to show you the video. We are today is again December 16, 2023. It is National Underdog Day. Let me tell you a little bit about that. National Underdog Day is celebrated on December 15th. It's a day to cheer on the little guys, the scrappy ones who defy the odds and emerge victorious. Hey, let's celebrate the little guy, the fighters, the dreamers who prove that anything is possible with a little heart and hustle. Cheer on your local small businesses, the underdog sports teams, or even the underdog artists in your community. Every bit of support helps. Take on a personal challenge or simply approach a daily task with the spirit of determination and resilience. You might surprise yourself. Spread the word about National Underdog Day and encourage others to celebrate the spirit. Hey, hooray for underdogs! I'm Daniel G. Garza, and thank you for listening. So if you consider yourself an underdog, go celebrate today and do something for yourself. I definitely when I saw the today video and I was like, oh, I have a T-shirt for that. I actually have an underdog T-shirt, so I did it. So for
Hmm.
those of you, I mean, no reflection on the show today. It just happened to land on today, but it's interesting that we are talking about overcoming things and
Yeah.
uh, getting to that next level, which takes us into the next half of the show, um, the entrepreneurial part. Because I want to talk about your book too, but um, going into business for yourself, like finally, like taking again that split decision. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. When the decision was made, when the step was taken, I was living in Los Angeles. I had moved down. I'd been hired to come down from San Francisco, where I was working. I was managing an architectural firm's interior design division, and great team, great people. Had settled into after a few really rough years personally. Had settled into a very peaceful, manageable existence in San Francisco. No plans to leave. And then a friend called and said, I know you don't want to hear this, but there's a job in Los Angeles that has your name written all over it. Just don't argue. Just do me a favor, fly down and take the interview. That's all you have to do. You can say no, but you just have to come down and see. And so kicking and screaming, I did. I flew down on a Sunday morning, had lunch with the business owner and his husband, and then spent the afternoon learning about the business. And then I got on a flight and flew back. And by the time I got back to my apartment Sunday night, this will let you know what year this was, there was a fax waiting for me at home um, in the ancient of days with a job offer. And I literally fell on the floor because it was almost 3 times what I was making in San Francisco. And it was an offer that I truly would have been out of my mind to pass up. So I said yes. And I moved to Los Angeles kicking and screaming because I had been born and raised in Northern California. And you just didn't move to Southern California because there was nothing there. Nobody moved to Southern California. That was the attitude. I was, of course, humbled and had to eat crow for a long period of time after I got there because I discovered, as is true with almost any place, that there are wonderful people that live there doing wonderful things, and I found kind of my tribe. But anyway, I worked for this firm for almost 2 years, and the job, it was a great job. I was working for celebrity clientele, crazy stories around the people that I got to meet, things that I never thought that I would ever experience. But I got to a point where I hit the glass ceiling. I had been told that I would be able to do certain things in the senior role. And as it turns out, the owner wasn't willing to let go of things that they were doing to let me continue to grow. And it just felt like I was going to be sort of stagnant for the rest of my life if I stayed. And at lunch one day, one of the architects that we worked with or working with on a project, he said, well, why don't you just go out on your own? He said, I'd certainly work with you. And it had never crossed my mind. It was not something that I had ever considered as an option. And so I started thinking about it. And fast forward about 6 months, I hung my little shingle up and severed ties with the other firm. It wasn't one of these where I took business with me. I walked away clean, and and in about 6 months had some really amazing little projects, and it began a 14, I guess 13, almost 14-year journey of building that little business. Now, when I look back on it, Daniel, did I have any business opening a business? No. Oh my God. I'm mortified when I think about it because I wasn't raised in a home where we talked about business or we understood how money worked or any of that. I was probably the least prepared person. And I gave it my best in the areas that I was comfortable with, and the areas that I wasn't comfortable with, I just pushed it aside and ignored it. But regardless, we ended up, we grew to, I think we had 13 or 14 on the team. We were at offices in Boston and Los Angeles, and we're working with crazy wealthy clients doing crazy amazing projects. And I was completely unprepared for all of it. I just stumbled through it, and then we landed in the fall of 2008. And if you remember what was happening about that time, when everything went sideways that weekend, when Lehman's went under, the phone began to ring. And of the probably 30 or so clients that we had, all but one called and put their project on indefinite hold. Multi-million-dollar projects. And I had 13 mouths to feed. I had, team members, and I didn't want to close up. And so I had other friends who were sort of my peers in Los Angeles, and I did what I saw other guys doing, or guys and gals. I was sitting on equity in the home. I had bought a condominium. I bought it very low, probably 10 years before, and had remodeled it, and that was my home at the time. But the equity that I had built in it was crazy. And so I said, well, I'll just tap into the equity and keep the business afloat. Surely the storm will pass in a couple of months and we'll be okay. And so I did that. And we got really creative, in the office, trying to figure out other ways to generate new income so that we could keep this thing open. And we got through Thanksgiving. I think we got through Thanksgiving weekend, and it was the first the first few days of December. And there was this feeling in the office of, we may just be able to weather this storm. This actually may just work. And then I woke up one morning, and the news, the lead story on CNN was that the real estate bubble had burst in Los Angeles. And overnight, I was upside down on $1.5 million worth of real estate that I couldn't sell. And I lost the house and I lost the business. It all went away.
Wow.
Literally overnight, it all went away.
Again, one of those moments, and because Juana, welcome to the show. She just posted on here, and sometimes it's something like this. So I wonder what would have happened to me if I had not had a diagnosis 14 years ago. Yeah, it's not always things that we get into. It's something just that
It
life
just
puts us
happened.
into, like just
Yeah.
life really puts into. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's crazy. But I think no matter how prepared, this is just my opinion, no matter how prepared I was, no matter how much I thought I knew, I have a business degree. I know business. Ha! Let me and then the business was like, let me tell you a couple of things. Like I feel like a business is literally a baby that comes into your life, and it calls the shots. You don't
Oh,
get to call the
totally.
shots, right?
Totally. Yeah. And there's no, I mean, yes, there's handbooks. Of course, there's handbooks. There's degrees you can get. You've got your degree. I've got friends that have MBAs from, Harvard and Wharton and all of these schools. And I mean, and was I wise enough to reach out and ask for guidance or wisdom? No. I was young and I was utterly foolish and, made a lot of great decisions. And then I made a bunch of really bad ones. But, in that early December week, in 2008, none of it mattered because it was all gone. It
Yeah.
was all gone. And I had so connected my self worth with the business and all that it represented that, you know, yeah, it was pretty dark for the next couple of months, and I ran away. I mean, it was a conscious decision. I knew what I was doing, but I knew that if I stayed in Los Angeles, I would follow through. So there was one morning, 3 a.m, I was on the roof of my building, sitting on the parapet, 17 stories above Sunset Boulevard, and I was ready to take the next step. Because I couldn't see where there wasn't a way out, and all I could see was the darkness of what I felt was ahead that I would never get out of. And then I heard like whining behind me, and I hadn't realized that my two dogs had followed me up to the roof that morning. And I was so panicked by, oh my God, if I do this, what's going to happen to them? And it distracted me, and I climbed down and I scooped them up in my arms, and you know went back downstairs and cried myself to sleep. And then shortly after that, I moved to Maine. I left Los Angeles because it was just too painful. And I came to Maine with the idea that maybe I'll just hide out here for the rest of my life. That was as far as I could think. And that was 13 years ago, and I'm still here. And my life is incredibly different. A business was born out of it. I started consulting. We had built the business pretty much solely on social media. We were early adopters on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And back when you could grow an organic following, we had done that. And that's how we had grown the business. And, I stumbled around for many years, kind of doing half-hearted consulting and talking to people about digital, and, had some really, again, more great successes, some really big failures. And the dust finally started to settle right before COVID. And years later, it wasn't quick, and it was painful. That there was not a lot of joy in any of those years. But when I finally got to the point where I could accept the fact that what had happened, that I could see it as the gift that it was, instead of feeling like I had been beaten with a stick, that I could take all of those experiences and I could roll them into something new, which for me right now is is working with business owners. I mean, the irony of that, after with that massive failure in my background, and yet now I am able, using a very systematic approach to growing revenue for businesses. I can sit with a business owner and I can tell them without hesitation, I know what it feels like to not be sure how you're going to keep the doors open. I've I failed at that task. I wasn't able to keep the doors open. I had to let 13 people go that I cared for deeply. Um, but I can sit with them today and I can show them a way. I can show them a path, create strategies, and then work with them. And that's what I'm doing. And I've got an amazing group of clients right now, and we're growing and adding new revenue to their businesses every day. And I'm still learning because I don't know it all. But there are a few lessons that I've learned that can, as it turns out, be very helpful to businesses grow and sort of expand into that next level of revenue generation and profit. And I can go to sleep at night and I can sleep peacefully.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's again, it's that that moment, that fork in the road. Let's call it. It's that fork in the road,
Yeah.
um, where you're like, I could take all the knowledge that I've accumulated, good and bad,
Mhm.
and see what I can build with that. It's kind of I feel like it's like um, what's that cooking game? Chopped. It's
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's chopped. It's like you get to a point in your life, you get to the fork in the road, and there's a basket full of all the things that you've been through, the good and the bad, and the
Mhm.
universe is like, do something with that,
Right. Hmm.
and it's up to you to decide. Because I think as you're talking, I'm like, yeah, that's where my coaching comes from, is
Hmm.
barriers and blockages and holding me back, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And what am I going to do with that? And it's I don't think anybody would blame us if we rolled up on the in the bathtub and cried under a cold water.
Well, and people, you know, and I have a very clear memory of this. People not only expect that's what you're going to do, but there are those out there that actually cheer you towards that end. I had someone, I will remember them till the day that I'm no longer on this earth, pull me aside and look me dead in the eyes and say, "Sorry, buddy, but you're never going to come back from this."
Ah,
And in the moment, I probably agreed with him,
huh?
you know. But hey, hey, you know, plot
Wherever
twist,
you are,
plot
wherever
twist.
you are, person.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
I
So,
remember people when I was going to rehab, uh, people that I'd partied with and hung out with, they were like, "You're not." They're like, "You're not cut out for rehab." It's like
yeah.
you're party. You're not. And I think that was the main motivator in me getting through the 3 months. Be like, well,
Mm,
I'm gonna prove you wrong,
right.
and and so wherever y'all are.
Yeah.
Uh, that's pretty awesome. Okay, so we've come to the show. We got about 12 minutes to go, and this is the part of the show where I ask my guests to share some words of wisdom with the audience. So, Jim Swan, what words of wisdom do you have for us?
You know, it's a quote that was shared with me a number of years ago, and I couldn't even tell you who shared it. It's not it's a Winston Churchill quote, and I know you hear Winston Churchill quoted all the time, and it's on cards and on social media posts, and but when you really stop and you put in context what was happening in his life and in his world when he made some of these statements. So the quote is that when you're going through hell, keep on going. And when you understand that he made that statement in the depths of the world war that they were trapped in, you know, with Hitler and his forces breathing down their throats, bombing London every night, bombing the country every night, and there appeared no way out. But he was able to not just believe for himself, but believe for an entire country. And as it turns out, a big portion of the world, he was able to hold on to the idea that if we just hold on a little bit longer, if we keep going through this hell, we'll come out on the other side. We don't know what it's going to look like or feel like or be, but we will come out on the other side. So, to whomever is listening, whatever you're facing, don't give up. Don't give up.
Interesting enough, as you said that, of course, for me, it's a country song. There's a country song that's called "If You're Going Through Hell," and the chorus says, "If you're going through hell, keep on going.
Really.
Don't slow down. If you're scared, don't show it. You might get out before the devil even knows you're there." And the, tomato, tomato. You quote Churchill. I quote country songs. We do what we do.
We do what we do. No, not one is neither better or worse than the other. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. I'm gonna guess you're talking about Jim's quote, not mine. But
Yeah, but you know what? You can't line dance to mine. So
yeah,
there.
there is that. Or you can always dress like Winston Churchill and go line dancing. So there's that there, country dancing. There's that one thing.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
bring it together.
I can
Both,
do that.
both. Yes, thank you. We want to show people your website.
Oh yeah.
People can go check out Pine Tree Partners LLC. And
Yeah.
let me bring up the website so you can walk us through it. And let me put us over here.
Yeah, my goodness, there we are. So yeah, we're strategists and consultants. We work with small to medium-sized businesses and their owners to do one thing, and that is to grow revenue and increase profits. If we're not making a business money with the strategies that we're sharing with them, then we don't get paid. That's how seriously we take the work that we do and how much belief we have in the principles and the strategies that we can bring to the table. So, yeah, click on some buttons, discover your hidden potential, reach out. We do this really cool 45-minute assessment. I make the promise, and it's one that I've yet to have been proved wrong. But if a business owner will give me 45 minutes of their time, I can find for them in their current business a minimum of $50,000 of untapped revenue. That doesn't require them investing in expensive marketing campaigns or new advertising campaigns, just money or potential money that's overlooked. So yeah, give a call, set up a time for us to do one of those analyses. It's free, there's no cost to it, and I'll even print up the roadmap so that you can execute on those strategies all on your own, and I'll leave that with you. So there.
And there's that handsome man right there.
Oh my goodness, yes. Thank God for great photographers.
Some testimonials for you to read.
Yeah, a couple of testimonials, people that are happy with the work we've done. And then yeah, a little form, drop in your name and information there. We'll get back to you and begin a conversation and really just see how we can be of service. We've got all sorts of different approaches to the program. We can do one-on-one strategic work for businesses that may not be quite ready to invest to make that kind of investment. We've got some group coaching opportunities where you can do some self-study and then once a week jump into a group coaching session where you get to build relationships with other business owners that are sort of your peers. And then if that isn't for you, we've got a self-study program that's less than $100 a month. You can go through the entire program that we use as the backbone of the strategic work that we do, implement them in your business, and grow and change. And that's the name of the game. So yeah.
And tell us where I pulled this up from your LinkedIn.
That's okay. So this is a new fun project. It's called After the Storm: The Messy Art of Resilience in Business. So really in line with some of the things we've talked about today. What I do is I invite a co-host, Daniel, you are invited, to come in and join me for a Friday. It's noon to 1 o'clock every Friday. Co-host invites 2 or 3 or 4 of their friends or colleagues or best buddies, just people who have interesting thoughts. We throw out a topic around the idea of resilience in business, and we spend about 50 minutes exploring it, talking and sharing ideas, and we have so much fun. So yeah, you can check a recording out of it there. Go to my LinkedIn and see the recording, get a sense for the vibe, and then come and join us on Fridays at 12 noon Eastern.
Yeah, I'm trying to look for. I remember where we booked ours. I think it's for February.
Oh, that's right. You know what? I'm sorry, I forgot about that. We did do that.
Yeah, I don't have your hold yet, but I know it's February. Is it February?
Give me a second. I can look it up for you, sir. I
I
didn't
know we're
have
coming
it.
up. So for those of you watching, I will be a guest co-host, and I already have three of my friends who are also business owners coming on to participate. So make sure you
Let's
stay tuned
see.
for that.
You are the 9th of February, Daniel. Friday, February 9,
There
12
we go.
p.m. Eastern Standard.
12 p.m. Eastern. That's right. All right. And
12 p.m.
folks, we're doing negotiate. We're wheeling and dealing while we're on the show. That's what we do. That's the kind of business owners we are. Like,
Right. That's how business is done.
yeah, could we do this off the air? Yes, we could, but we're not. We're bringing you in it. And the reason we're showing this is so that you guys can watch. So make sure you go check out his LinkedIn page, JR Swan. Sorry, go check that out. Check him on LinkedIn. Follow him so you can pay attention to those shows. Uh, there's so much more we didn't talk about, uh, but we only got an hour.
I know.
You would think an hour is enough, but folks know an hour is not enough. Uh, so make sure you go check out Pine Tree Partners LLC for more information. Remember, there's a contact sheet page there, so just go in there and hey, get you a chance to talk with Jim and get some of his knowledge and wisdom. Check us out also on alignable.com. If you need more information on that, reach out to me, whatever page you're on, and I'll let you know. Remember, you can find us at the meet and greets for the LGBTQIA2S group and for the Latinx, both business pages. So go check us out. And thank you so much for coming on the show. I so appreciate you. Um,
Thank you.
and you guys know that I love bringing on people that I care for and I just appreciate. And Jim knows I love him because he every once in a while I'll be like, when can we visit? And he knows what that means. It's like I've got all these things that I need to like spill out and tell you about. But you're one of those people that understand and knowing more of your story today. I get it now. I get why I'm so attracted to calling you when business things are are growing or where my career is going in the right direction because you understand you've been there, you've been through the valleys and the peaks, and you know how that roller coaster ride goes, and it's always cool to sit next to somebody who understands. um, uh, I don't know if you want to add to this or not, but if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, you do not have to go through this alone. The
Mhm.
timeline is yours, but we have information that could be useful for you. And whether you do a barrier breakdown workshop like mine, or you take coaching sessions from Jim, there are millions of people that are willing to help you. And there's ought to be, and I always say that if I can't help you, I have somebody that can help you.
Yeah.
I'll direct you in the right direction. Any last thoughts on all that?
No, just I'm right with you there. Don't do it alone. If I could go back and change anything about my trajectory as a business owner, I would have asked for a lot more help a lot earlier in the game. Would I have avoided the big mistakes I made? Maybe, maybe not. That's not the point. The point is that there are people out there who are willing to give you a hand, share wisdom, and help support you as you grow. Whether it's in a relationship that where you're paying for their support, or just in networking groups and mastermind groups and support groups online. There's all kinds of stuff out there. So just don't do it alone.
And you, there's parts of the story that I didn't know. You, I say this with love. You don't have to find yourself on the roof of a building.
No,
That's not the answer. And
no,
I'm so grateful that your dogs were there to bring you back because I deeply appreciate your friendship and having you in my life. So thank you so much.
likewise, and thank you.
I'm going to put you in the green room while I say goodbye to everybody. Don't go anywhere. Thank you so much for being on the show. For everybody watching, I hope you enjoyed today's topic. You're both awesome. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for coming on and sitting with us for this hour. Invite everybody. Remember, we've got shows throughout the week. On Mondays, don't forget that horoscopes all over social media. Make sure you find them, like them. Here's a little hint. If you comment, you get extra information. So make sure you comment on any site, and I will pull out an extra card, or I'll give you some extra info or tips. So make sure you do that. A lot of people don't do that, and remember, we still have Grumpy Bunny and the Colors game. So if you're looking for a book for your kids in English and Spanish, they are signed and delivered. That covers the $25. But also, if you're in the Southern California area, they're available at the Awakenings book stores at both locations and at Village Well bookstores in Culver City. Check us out at littlemexicanproductions.com/Grumpy Bunny. Also, if you're looking for coaching sessions, transpersonal coaching, we identify knowledge and remove barriers. It's one-on-one groups, team building, and we can do in person if you're in Southern California or virtual. Email us at danielggarza@littlemexicanproductions.com. Remember, I don't have it on here, but I need to set up an announcement for Christian. He's got his own spiritual coaching and mediumship sessions available. Our friend Richard Wayne Kilgo, check him out. Professional Intuitive Services. You can find him at Awakenings. Call him at 949-457-0797 or check out his website at rwk2.com. And we promise that we've been asked about Zodiacs. Is it coming back? Yes, it will come back. We've just both been really busy and we have to find a different date instead of Fridays for it. But we'll let you know in the new year. Remember that on December 22nd, yes, Friday the 22nd is our annual horoscopes for the next year. So this year, for the first time, we're doing Spanish and English. So make sure you check for times. I'll be posting those pretty soon, but we're going to have an English and a Spanish hour separate so that para la gente que está viendo, van a tener los horóscopos en español, una hora en español y una hora en inglés. So make sure you check us out. And then December 26th, I'll be on for cake for my birthday. So make sure you join us. I'm not sure if we're going to have this plus a Zoom. We don't know yet. I don't know what's going to happen. It depends on how I wake up that morning. But be ready to come on, share some cake with me, grab your favorite drink, and everybody that shows up gets a card read for them. So that's my special thank you for joining us. For now, I want to I want to thank Jim Swan for joining us. I want to thank you all for watching. We have one last comment. Yes. Hi, Christian. Hi, babe. Thank you. Happy early birthday. I take birthdays. This little baby Jesus thinks he owns December. It's about me. He doesn't know that. For now, I want to thank everyone for watching. Please join us next Wednesday for Christian and Daniel. And hey, this is Daniel Garza saying, put it together. See you next time.